On today's episode of Warehouse Safety Tips, we're wrapping up our final week of fire safety tips. So stay tuned. Welcome to Warehouse Safety Tips. If you're a seasoned vodcast viewer, this vodcast is going to be different from most that you watch. It's based around exactly what the name implies, warehouse safety tips. And since the people in this industry are busy, we know that time is money, so each episode will be as short and to the point as possible. And now, with all that out of the way, let's get to the vodcast. This last week, my daughter and I were fortunate enough to be exhibitors with our sponsor, Mighty Line, at the NFPA show, which is a National Fire Protection Agency, association, I should say. And it is just an amazing convention and expo for everything that you can imagine with fire safety. And it was very fitting because we've been doing the last several weeks fire safety tips. So we're going to do our fifth and final week of fire safety today. It's not saying that it's not going to come back very near in the future, but we always like to keep things top of mind. I'm sure we'll be going back to it. So next to us at the show, we had a fire escape exhibitor, and it was the National Fire Escape Association. And what they did was educate people on fire safety as it relates to fire escapes. So today what we're going to be covering is stairways and fire escapes and just the couple high level tips around that. So the very first thing we want to talk to you about is going to be making sure that you inspect your fire escapes. Look for things like rust. Look for loose fittings of any type. Also look for any structural damage. So it's going to be something that you're going to definitely want somebody that is qualified to come in and check it, but make sure that you always know that if someone is on your fire escape, that it is absolutely safe to be using, especially in the case of an emergency. The next thing is going to be keeping aisles clear and keeping exits clear. So if there's a pathway that is going to be serving to get people out of a building or just a regular exit, make sure that you always keep a clear path, and that's something that is going to be very fitting across the board. So you always want to make sure that you have a place for everything and everything in its place. You're following that whole 5S methodology and that you are keeping your paths clear. The next thing is going to be making sure that you use stairs and not elevators in the event of a fire. So the reason being, they can become non-operational. People can succumb to smoke, and possibly in that non-operational phase, it could actually stop, and that's a bad thing. So you want to make sure that people know that in the event of a fire, you do not use the elevators and you do use the stairs. The next thing is going to be making sure that you have training on both the fire escapes and the stairwells and the exact procedures that you need to use for those in the event of an emergency. Something that we cover a lot when we talk about fire, and whether it's a drill or the real thing, make sure that you know exactly where you're supposed to meet so that the management or your safety team or maintenance or whoever's in charge of it knows exactly who's supposed to be there and can take a roll call to know that everyone is safe. And last but not least, make sure that you have clear signage. I mentioned our sponsor, Mighty Line. They make the absolute best tape and floor signs in the industry. One of the things that we have that is going to be absolutely fitting for this is going to be if the power goes off or if there's something going on with fire and you need to stay low, you want to make sure that you're able to see the markings on the floor. And we have markings that will actually illuminate if the lights go off. The other thing is bright colors such as yellow floor tape, and a myriad of other things such as signage to make sure that you know where the fire extinguishers are, you know where possibly halon is, that you can pull. Any sort of fire safety, make sure you have good clear signage for it. And then the other thing is just make sure that you always know what's going on. Make sure that you know the evacuation procedures. Make sure that you know the exits, much like when you get on a plane and they point out all the different exits and the way that you can do things and the stuff that you have to do in the event of an emergency. Make sure that you know those things. And even though you might feel like you're possibly going over it too much, just like we always tell you with this show, we always want to make sure that we keep things top of mind. So if you're doing it for a new person or you're doing it for a seasoned veteran of your facility, it's always good to keep that stuff top of mind. So thank you very much for being part of this whole 5 weeks of fire safety. We greatly appreciate it. Make sure that you have a great day, stay safe, and here is a word from one of our sponsors.
It's scientifically unexplainable. It's virtually indestructible. And it's taking over the entire planet. But in a really good way. It's Mighty Line floor tape, the most durable floor tape in the world. 7 times thicker than average floor tape. Beveled to endure pounding warehouse traffic. And backed with a super strong peel and stick adhesive, so you'll never have to worry about painting shop floors again. Mighty Line floor tape, the only durable stripe.